We ready? Okay, good afternoon. I'm Kenneth Corey, the Chief of Department. We're here to talk about some positive news on the Crystal Bayron Nieves case. We have a suspect in custody, and he is being charged. I say good news in the context that this is a step towards justice, and while this does not bring Crystal back, it may serve as a measure of comfort to a family that is preparing to bury a child. This case begins in the first hour of Sunday morning. The call comes in at 12:47 a.m. 2 minutes later, officers are on the scene. Responding units begin life-saving efforts. FDNY EMS is on the scene within minutes of the first call. They could not save Crystal Bayron Nieves. Immediately, a mobilization was called for additional resources. Precinct units began to canvass the area in search of the suspect using a picture obtained from the security camera. At the same time, detectives were already on the scene and began interviewing the other victims and the few witnesses they had. To say that our detectives started out with not much more than a shadow would be accurate. That is how these cases often begin. As we see over and over again, our detectives are determined and they are relentless. We often hear the term, a senseless murder. That is not a cliche in this case. There was no reason to shoot this young woman. Money had been handed over. She was trying to comply with the gunman's demands. She was killed for no apparent reason. Let me introduce the Chief of Detectives, James Essig, who will walk you through some of what we can tell you about the investigation and the arrest.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Mayor, First Deputy Commissioner Caban, Chief of Department. Today we go through a lot of different emotions. Relief, of course, we caught this guy. A sense of awe and extreme pride in the men and women of the NYPD, especially the Detective Bureau in particular. I'd like to introduce with me people who did the investigation. Detective Brian McGee, the investigative chief, Captain Brian Scalise, Lieutenant Bill Turgensen of the 25th Precinct Detective Squad, Lieutenant Jimmy Leo, Manhattan North Homicide, and probably the two most important people in the room right now are case detectives Carmelo Santiago from the 25 Precinct Detective Squad and from Manhattan North Homicide, Alex Alguero. You know, these men and their team's dedication, relentless follow-up, and attention to detail, combining with old school detective work with modern technologies, is what solved this case. This was such a horrible and heartbreaking crime, and they took this personal. When you see the video and think of this terrible incident, a senseless, brutal killing of a teenager who was doing the right thing, working on a Saturday night at 12:30 and had her life cut short, it both makes your blood boil and shocks your senses. I'd like to walk you through a little bit of the investigation before we take questions now. So 4 days ago, on January 9th, at 12:47 hours in the morning, a male walked into Burger King at 154 East 116th Street in the borough of Manhattan. He was attired in a ski mask, a black jacket, and what became a very important clue in this investigation, white earbuds hanging out of his pocket, as seen in this picture. There were 4 people in the Burger King, 2 customers, the manager, and our teenage victim. Our perpetrator brandishes a firearm. He pistol whips the manager and 1 customer, knocking 2 teeth out of the manager's mouth. He then goes to the register where he removes $100, approximately $100. Our teenage victim, a Miss Crystal Bayron Nieves, a 19-year-old female who was working at the time, was behind the counter. The man demands more money from the register drawer. As Miss Bayron Nieves is scrambling to open the drawer, she doesn't have the key. The male fires one shot, striking her and causing her death. He flees, picking up the store manager's phone in the process. What we recover on the scene is one 9mm shell casing and one bullet fragment. Detectives then tracked the video to the 116th Street and Lexington Avenue train station. We do extensive pre- and post-video surveillance is done at that location. We are able to identify pre-shooting a male with different clothing at this time, but with the same gait, height, and earbuds hanging out of his pants. He also has a backpack on at this time. We track that now person of interest and are able to ID that male. We then are able to confirm that he was a prior employee of that same Burger King. He worked there between April of 2020 and December of 2020. He is ID'd as a Mr. Winston Glynn, male, 30 years old, known to us with 4 prior arrests, a menacing, criminal possession of a weapon, knife, an assault, and a criminal mischief. And he has addresses in Queens and Brooklyn. Through an extensive video canvas in our transit system, we are able to track Mr. Glynn to locations in Brooklyn. At 8 o'clock last night, members of our regional task force, along with our violent crime squad, apprehended Mr. Glynn without incident in front of 12 Patchen Avenue in Brooklyn. Recovered were those earbuds, a backpack, along with other very distinctive clothing. He was charged with murder in the first degree, robbery in the first degree, criminal use of firearm in the first degree, and a criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree. I can't speak highly enough of the job everybody did within the police department, as well as the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. We still have a lot of work to do in this, but we swiftly took a killer off the street in this horrific crime. So I'll turn it over to Kenny.
Let me introduce the Mayor of the City of New York, Mayor Eric Adams, who would like to say a few words. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And on behalf of the Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, and the people of this city, we want to say thank you to these detectives for the job that they perform. And when I visited Crystal's mother and just saw the pain on her face and saw how much this tore her apart, and we don't see those cries, we don't see the pain often. Sometimes we report these incidents as just mere numbers. But these detectives understood that Crystal was not a number, and they carried out their job in a professional capacity and brought this killer to justice. And I believe we need to think about that when we start to look at how important we need a department that understands, as I say over and over again, the prerequisite to our prosperity is public safety and justice. They go together, and they perform that. And I don't come to press conferences of arrests, but this one was so personal. For a cold-blooded killer to shoot a 19-year-old child after she complied. We have been saying this over and over again. There are too many guns on our streets. And when people question my urgency of putting in place the right apparatus to give the support to the men and women who are performing these jobs, they need to go visit Crystal's mother. They need to see the pain on her face. We are not going to change our course. We're not going to have our city return to violence. That's a promise I made as a candidate, and it's a promise I'm going to keep as the mayor. I want to thank these detectives. I want to thank the thoroughness of their investigation. This was old-fashioned commitment, dedication, and just investigatory tools that allowed us to apprehend this person. He murdered that child. He had no regard for the people he assaulted with that gun inside the restaurant. If he had no regard for Crystal, then he has no regards for the children of this city. We did our job, and we're going to continue to do our job. And I wanted to be here with these men and women to tell them thank you on behalf of the people of this city. We appreciate what you accomplished. Thank you.
Questions?
Miles? Two questions. The suspect and what he was able to say to detectives, I know he was screaming incoherently when he walked out of the precinct. Were detectives able to get anything out of him in terms of what he did? And then secondly, this seems to be a person who is doing wanton crimes in the city, menacing people with knives and with screwdrivers, telling people that he's going to stab them, going back to 2017. So where's the connection point there?
So to your first question about the statements, he didn't make any statements to us. He requested an attorney, as is his right to do so. In terms of his history of arrests, and Chief Essig kind of laid that out, he has one open case at the moment, which is a menacing with a knife. Also, as you pointed out, Miles, he was kind of screaming incoherently. Right? Whether or not he suffers from some form of mental illness will be all part of the process to determine. That could be an issue here, and maybe, maybe he's a person that had he gotten services earlier on, we could have saved this woman's life.
Dean Amdorf, did the victim and the killer know each other? I know you mentioned that he previously worked.
No indication that they knew each other. They did not work there at the same time. As a matter of fact, there's over a year that separates their employment there.
Rocco,
Chief Essig, is there any sort of connection to the fact that he used to work there? Did he get fired? Did he get fired from the job? Did he leave under less than ideal circumstances?
No, we have no indication that he left under any circumstances. December 2020, he left that location. But
you mentioned that the pre-canvas, from before he enters the Burger King, he's wearing different clothes. Does that suggest he plotted this, and how far back does that video go?
All indications indicate at this point in the investigation that he plotted it. He shows up in different clothing. He has a backpack where he changes his clothing. So all indications are that he knew this place well. He pre-planned the event.
Just a couple of housekeeping questions. How old was he and what's his middle name?
We have his middle. 30 years old. We know he's 30 years old. Winston Glynn. No middle name. Winston Glynn.
Okay.
Glynn.
Matt Rosenberg, 88.
You took my question.
Tony?
Chief, what's the most critical thing in terms of the technology, the videos that helped break this case? We got the videos deep into Brooklyn that you were able to backtrack.
The transit video, extremely helpful. There's 18 stations, we believe, between 116th Street and the Brooklyn Bridge. Video all over the place. And just, again, good old-fashioned detective work. Noticing that wire hanging out on another person and then tracking that person, seeing what he did, being able to ID that person, and then, finding out where he was. It was just good old-fashioned police work combined with video enhancement, etc.
Victoria, maybe one?
Can we confirm on social media that he goes by the name Roshane Glynn, R-O-S-H-A-N-G-L-Y-N-N? There's a photo that looks like there's a Burger King behind.
Yeah. As of right now, we just know him as Winston Glynn.
Did that photo of him in the Burger King outfit,
Yeah.
did you guys use that in your investigation?
Well, we confirmed that he worked there.
Rocco?
Chief, is there anything you can tell us about the gun? Has it been linked to any other crimes? Any idea where he got it?
As of right now, that's still under investigation. We haven't recovered the gun at this point.
Any just rough idea how many different cameras were used to trace this guy?
You're talking about from 116 to Brooklyn and then into Brooklyn itself, where we eventually catch him at Patchen Avenue in Brooklyn. And the video canvases are incredible. The work and the time that goes into it, it's painstaking. The officers, the detectives do a great job of this.
Dozens of cameras?
Dozens, probably more than dozens.
Any other questions?
Am I right in assuming that the camera canvas is a combination of cameras that are part of the NYPD system of cameras and private sector cameras, as well as literally going into stores and actually?
Yeah, there's cameras everywhere. Bus video, transit video, cell phone video, canvases in every grocery store. Every store has them. So there's video all over, and we use it very effectively.
Is it accurate that he shot her after she had turned her away? She'd given the money up, and she had turned away, and then he shot her?
Go ahead, Brian. This is Brian McGee. He's the investigative chief in Manhattan North.
Good afternoon. No, she was at a second register, and she was crouching down by the register when he put his arms out and shot her.
Any other questions? Last call. Anybody? Ready?
Well, we were speaking to the investigators, Rosarina Fontaine, and they were saying that she had said to him, "I know you." Did you guys hear anything about that?
We have no indication at all that they know each other. Worked a year apart.
No other questions? We're good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bring everybody over. Bring the other.